Hi everyone. I wanted to take some more time and just kind of do a second part to this hockey card example that I've been doing, which is really my example of how to use classes and array lists together. So first of all, I'm going to start by showing you the GUI. So let's pay attention to this. And if you look over here, I have a list of 4 hockey players. And if I type another one in here, I'm a Leaf fan, so we'll go with Morgan Riley. Oh, my mistake. Plays for the Leafs. And let's say my card is from 2016, whatever rating, shoots left, and I'll just make the hockey card company Tops. That's a company that makes hockey cards. So if I click add, then you'll notice that Morgan Riley is added. So now I'm going to click my save and exit button. And just to prove that my file IO is working, I am going to run it again. And if everything works well, we should see all those hockey players pop back up, including Morgan Riley. Okay, so what's going on is I'm adding stuff, I'm adding information, and it's being saved, which is the idea here. So how exactly does this work? Now that you've seen it, how exactly does it work? So let's get out of here and let's go through the code. So we have 2 files. We have the GUI file and we have my HCard class, which is my hockey card class. And it doesn't matter what you call that. I could have called it hockey card, I could have called it card, I could have called it hockey. It doesn't matter as long as you name it something to do with the program. But the point is that the only thing I don't really like is when people call this something plural, because if it's H cards, that implies to me that you think you're going to make multiple cards at once. You are making one hockey card using this class over and over and over again. All right, so let's get into the code. Now I've commented this, and I will post the code later, but I want you to watch the video, go through it, and take a look at my comments, okay? So here are the imports that I need in order to run the program. So these are the libraries that I need. And then here is the cards GUI class. So these are global variables. Now, again, this is a grade 12 programming class, so there are some things that I have to kind of assume you've done before. Variables is one of those. So I haven't touched on this, but in your previous coding class, hopefully you learned that some variables are global, which means they can be used anywhere in the program, and some are local, which means that they only exist during a method. For example, here's a variable that I've made. It's a hockey card variable, and since I made this variable inside this button method, it will not exist anywhere but running code from here to here. As soon as this is done, this is going to disappear. All of these, though, these are global variables, and basically as long as my GUI is open, these are fields that can be accessed from anywhere. So this array list I have up here, the reason it's up here is because I want my array list of cards to be accessible anywhere in the program. No matter what button I hit, I want that to be available. Okay, so these are my global variables, and here's my array list of hockey cards that I'll be making, and these are just fields that are going to store information. Now we get into the cards GUI constructor, and this is what makes the new form. So whenever you see this init components here, that is the first thing that happens in the program, and init components is right here. See it? It's hiding, and you don't need to pay any attention to what's going on in here. This is all stuff that NetBeans does for you behind the scenes, and you can't even change it. If I click here and start typing, I am typing right now, it won't let me. Okay, and so you don't need to worry about init components. When you drag stuff onto your form, like text boxes and buttons, obviously there's code that has to make that happen. This is the code, but you don't have to go and type that all out. This is NetBeans working for you to help you, and you can minimize that and don't allow it to clutter up your space. Okay, but you should be aware that init components is the indication that this is where the form is being built, and so if you want something to happen right away in your game, you put it right here. So this happens right away in my I keep saying game, but my program. So this says load hcard array. And the fact that it has these two brackets indicates it's a method that I made. So I'm going to go look for that, or I can double click on that and go navigate and go to source, and it takes me right to it. So the load hcard array, what that does is it opens up the text file that I have on my computer, and I can see it in the files area. There's my hcards file. I also have it open here in NetBeans so I can see exactly what is in there. So it is going to open up my hcards file. This is going to make a file reader and a buffered reader so that I can read in the characters and the lines in normal, like, English. I don't want them in binary or bytecode or anything like that. So that's what this is responsible for. And then here I read a line from the text file. Now if that line is not null, so in other words, if I actually read some content, that means I have a non-empty file and I want to do something with that line. So we are assuming that the people who are using this program are putting things in properly, and that what I just read is a line that indicates a hockey player. So if we look at it, here's a line that indicates a hockey player. The name is Pat LaFontaine, the team is Islanders, the year is 1988, the rating is 7.8, the handedness is right, and the company is Tops. So the way I wrote this program, the commas are the separators of the fields. Name, team, year, rating, handedness or shoots or whatever, and company. So if I go back to here, back to here, what I do is I say, okay, I read a line from the file. As long as that line isn't null, I am going to split that line based on the comma. And what that's going to yield is a string array of 6 different things. So I'm going to split based on the comma, and in the 0th spot of the resulting array, I'm going to have the name. In the first spot, I'm going to have the team. In the second spot, I'm going to have the year, and so on and so forth. Okay? So when I do that, now I have this array that holds the information that makes up one hockey card. So now I go and I make a new hockey card, but it's blank. There's nothing in it. That's because what I want to do is make a hockey card, and then I'm going to set all of the values. So at this point, we're going to skip over to the hockey card class, and I'm going to show you something called, well, I'm going to show you a constructor, a different constructor. So here is the hockey card class, and I haven't changed anything from the previous video about this stuff. We still have the same fields, but I've added the word private to all of these. And what that means is I can't go and just access these variables or characteristics or fields, whatever you want to call them. I can't go access these values from here. I have to use the methods to get at them. So that was kind of my inspiration for delaying by a day. I had a few people asking about methods. So if that was you, then listen up, because here we go. Let's say I want to retrieve the name of one of the hockey cards or hockey players or whatever. If I go down here, you'll see that I have methods that set all of the different values and get all of the different values. So if I want to, in this case, we're at this point in the code, we're setting. So I have all of the information for a hockey player, but it's just in a string array. I make myself a blank hockey card, and now I want to set the name of the hockey card to be the value from that string array that represents the name. And the way I do that is I use the set name method. So if I look here again, here's set name, and what set name does, it's very simple actually. All set name does is it takes a string parameter that I've called n, and it's going to make n, whatever we pass through as the parameter, equal to sname. So it's setting the name of that hockey card. And if you get that, good news, because the rest is all the same. We then set the team with temp1. We set the year with the integer value of temp2, because we have to change that to an integer. And then we set the rating, and then we set the shoots or the handedness, and then we set the company. And then, once we've got the hockey card completely made with all 6 things, we add the hockey card to our array of cards, and then we put it in the combo box. Now, take a look at this. hc.getInfo. So getInfo is another method that I created in the hockey card class. If we go to the bottom, what getInfo does is it will return just the name and then a comma, and then the team and then a comma, and then the value of the year. So this is me making a method that shows a limited number of fields, and that might be because maybe my program doesn't want to clutter everything up too much. I don't want to show everything to the user, but maybe I just want to show that little bit of info. Okay, and if you remember, I don't have my program running anymore, but that's exactly what you saw in the drop-down box. You saw name, team, and year. So it does that, and then it reads another line from the file. And if that line is not null, in other words, if it's got legitimate content, it does it all again. And then it reads another line, and then it does it all again, and continually, and so on. So it won't stop until it tries to read a line and goes, oh, there's nothing left. I must be done reading this whole file. So that's how it reads all of the information in while it creates cards and adds to the array list and the combo box at the same time. Now, it's one thing to hear me say all that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a breakpoint right here, and we're going to debug this. And what this does is it pauses so that I can actually show you that this is working with any luck. So I open the debugger, and you'll see that it's paused. So the program is running right now, and it's paused. So it's about to read a line from a file. It's done all this stuff. It's opened the file reader and the buffered reader, and I'm going to click this line. And when I click this line, S line should be the first line of the file. So I hover over S line, and sure enough, if you look at that value, it's got Pat LaFontaine, Islanders, 1988, so on. Okay, that's great. So that line is obviously not null. We did get something. So we skip to the next line, and now it's about to do the split based on the comma. So I do that line, and then look what temp is. It is a string array with 0 through 5, name, team, year, rating, and so on. So now that we have that stuff, we make a new hockey card. So now I've made a new hockey card, and I can look at hockey card, HC, and HC is a hockey card, but look at the name, null, team, null. So I haven't set any values. It's all nulls and nothings. So now I'm ready to actually set some stuff. So I'm going to run this line of code where we set the name. So I've just set the name, that's all I've done. Right, I'm paused on this line, and let's take a look at HC now. And you can see, look, Pat LaFontaine, it's got for name. I haven't done the rest yet, but by the time I run the next 5 lines, now we should have a hockey card with all of the fields filled in. So I'm done making my hockey card object, or filling in the fields of my hockey card object. So now I'm going to add it to the array list. Now, just to prove to you this works, you can see there if I hover over AL cards, the size is 0. Let's run it. And now AL cards is 1. I have a hockey card in the list, and if you check it out, it's the hockey card that we made. Okay? Now, S line at this point is still Pat LaFontaine because I haven't read a line. Now I'm about to read another line. So I read the line, and oh, now we got a new player. So did we read null? Nope, we actually got something. So we go and we do that all again. So again, temp, we'll now see Alex McGillney in there. So it overwrites everything, and then it goes and it makes another hockey card and adds that hockey card to the array and the combo box. So now I have 2 hockey cards in the array, and you can see that it's going to slowly load, well not slowly, it's going to quickly load them all, and by the time I'm done, I'm going to have all the hockey cards in the array. So that's how we read a text file and get the information into an array list and into a combo box. So if I continue to run this, you can see they're all there. Okay? So that's part one. Now, in the actual button add isn't too bad. If I put text in all the fields, we just put them all in the variables, we make a new hockey card, and we add it to the array. So this is the beauty of array lists. We don't have to regrow it. We don't have to set a size and say we're gonna have 10 hockey cards and that's it. We can have as many as we want, and we can use the add method as many times as we want. And so I can keep adding more and more and more hockey cards. And then ultimately I am going to use the get info method to put limited information in that combo box. I don't want to show everything, I just want to show a little bit of information about each one. Okay, so that's the add button. So we've been over those variables at the top. We've been over the load card array. The only thing left to go over is the save and exit. So you'll notice that I have a save and exit button. So when I click save and exit, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I retain all of that information. So I'm going to, when I hit that button, open a new file, and I'm going to completely obliterate anything that was already in the old file. And you might be thinking, why would you do that? Well, it's because I have the information in the array list, right? I have all the information that I need in the array list. So if I were to build a delete button, let's say, I can make it so that someone deletes a hockey card and they delete it from the array list. And as long as when they exit, as long as I dump the contents of the array list to the text file, then I'll have my delete will actually work, because I have to actually delete it from the text file for that player to be truly deleted. Okay, so I open the file, or I get the file. I use a file writer to actually get access to the file, and here is a loop that is going to go through all of the cards. So it goes from 0 to however big the array of cards is. And I keep saying array, I use that pretty much interchangeably with array list because they're so commonly, same thing. So the array list of cards. So I go from 0 to however big the array list of cards is. In this case, if I hover over AL cards, I think I'm out of debug mode right now. If I put a breakpoint there and click, I think I can get back. Now I'm back in debug mode. So you can see I've got 5 things in my array list, right? So I'm going to run a loop that's going to go from 0 and go to 4 actually, because it's not going to get to 5. It's going to say x less than 5. And for each one, it's going to get the xth card from the array list. So the first time through, x is going to be 0. It's going to get the 0th card. It's going to save that into this temp. So the temp is a hockey card or an H card object. And I'll skip right down to here if I can. There we go. Just to show you how this works. So I'm going through the list. I haven't run this yet. I'm going to step, and let's look what temp is. So temp is the 0th hockey card, which winds up being Pat LaFontaine. Okay, so I told it to get the X card. X is 0 right now. And then I'm going to take all the info from that, and I'm going to write it out. Now you might be thinking, what's get all info? Back we go to here. Notice there's a get all info method, and what that does is it returns all of the information separated by commas with a new line character at the end. And so this is the method that I made in order to write information out to the file in a proper format separated by commas. So for each one, we get each card from the array, store it in a temp variable, and then we say, okay, we're going to write to the file all of the info in that temp variable. So the first one it does is Pat LaFontaine, and then it goes to the next one and gets the Alex McGillney one, writes that one to a file. I think we can actually see it growing. No, we can't. We're not going to be able to see it as it goes in here because we haven't closed the file yet. We'll only see it when we close the file. So I'll do it again and again. So I think we're at 3, 4. This should be it. Yep. So that's it. Now we've written all of the information out to a file. So if I hit bw.close, there we are. It shows up. Okay. And that is about it. So the point of this one is to kind of show you how it all works together, but also to show you these methods. Now, these are methods that I made because they made sense for my program. You can make any kind of methods you want. If you wanted to make another getInfo method, a slightly different one that returns just name and team, sure, that one works. That works fine. And also in terms of the constructor, you can have multiple constructors. So what this is I have one way to make a hockey card that's completely blank, but I have another way to make a hockey card that has all of the fields. I could also make another constructor. So let's say that you have a hockey card and you know the name and you know the team, but you don't have any of the information right now. So I could make a constructor that says I'm going to allow somebody to make a hockey card with just 2 pieces of information, name and team, and maybe they fill in the rest later. So this constructor allows us to make a card with only name and team. And I could make a constructor that has, only name, or one with has only name and year. I could make a whole bunch of different permutations of constructor. Now it's common to have a blank constructor and maybe one with all the fields, and but the point is that a constructor allows you to make a hockey card, and as a programmer I can be strict and say, well, you have to have all the values, or I can say, well, you have to have 2 values, or I can say you can make a blank one. If I took this one out right here, what's going to happen? Watch this. If I go back here, I'm going to get an error because now, let me stop this. You can see there's an error. See over there? There we go. Because now I've taken away the ability to make a blank hockey card. So it says, whoa, 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 you can't do that. There's no constructor to make a blank hockey card. But if I put this back in, it says, oh, okay, I get that now. All right. And just one last word, I guess. Why did I put the word private here? Private makes it so that you can't manipulate variables from the main program. It makes it harder to do that anyway. And for the purposes of this assignment, it's not obvious as to why I would do that. Because if I make this public, I'm just going to make sname public, okay? And if I go back to the GUI, and just for fun, I'm going to type hc dot. And you'll notice that sname appears. And I can go, okay, well, let's go hc sname equals Steve. And I could actually set the name like that. But if I try to do that with hc.steam, and I'm just playing around here, this is not part of the program, but I'm just illustrating the point of public private. If I say Steve plays for the Oilers, it's going to give me a hard time with this one because steam has private access in each card. But you might look at this and go, well, this is a really easy way to set the name, so why would you not just go here and make all of these public? And the answer is when you get really large pieces of code, and I'm talking, huge programs, people at like Microsoft, Google, EA Sports working on giant projects where there's hundreds of people working on different pieces of the code, and maybe there's 3 different groups and they all have access to a class. If you have multiple people changing variables without, kind of keeping track of who's doing what, then things can go horribly, horribly wrong. And so it's just common practice to make your variables private. And that means I can't do this. And if I want to set or get the values, then I have to use the sets and the gets, right? If I want to get info, if I want to set. So I use the sets when I'm actually creating the hockey cards, and when I'm, loading it from scratch, when I was doing my load card array. Oh, where was it? Sorry. That's when I use my gets. Actually, maybe I didn't use my gets. But anyway, the point is what I've done here, where you see, here's my fields and constructors, and here's sorry, here are my fields and characteristics of the class, so the things that make up the class, the characteristics that make up a hockey card. Here are 3 different constructors, 3 different ways to make a hockey card. And then here I have all these methods, and they look identical, and they're not complicated. They're all just, hey, here's how you set the year, here's how you set a rating, and then down here, here's how you can get access to the year. But maybe I don't want people getting access to the rating for whatever reason. I'm just picking rating as an example. I don't have to put that one in there. And now people can't have access to the rating. There are reasons to do that, but they're not evident at the grade 12 university programming level. So you're just going to have to trust me on that this is common. And then down here, these are methods that I thought of that would help me to put things into a file with this one and to show things on the screen with this one. So I figured it would be a lot easier to build a get info so that every hockey card would have the ability to spit out its information rather than me having to hard code it all in the GUI. It just made more sense. Okay? So I'm hoping that answers a lot of questions for people, especially about the methods and more about the classes and how they all work together, and also about file I/O. So this should help you with your movie collection project that you're doing. And the summative that you are going to do starting on Friday is going to be very similar to what I've done right here and to what you've done with the movies. Okay, so I would urge you to continue with your movie thing, take the extra day and really understand that, and then you should be good to go for your summative, which will start on Friday. Okay, so good luck everybody, and as always, please, actually I shouldn't say as always because I'm not getting a lot of emails. If you are, and when I sent out the email tonight and said email me no matter what, just to let me know how you're doing, I did get a few people who emailed me and said, you know what, I'm kind of struggling. And what I would say to you people is, don't wait for me to ask you, right? You should be asking me before. If you don't understand something, make me earn my money, okay? I'm happy to help, but if you don't email me and let me know that you need help, it's hard for me to tell. So please, whenever you're struggling, I appreciate that you go online and you ask friends, and good for you for doing that. But once you've done that, if you're still struggling and you're not sure, please ask me. I'm happy to help. But I can't read your minds, so let me know. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.